My name is Pam Kuntz, and I teach at Western Washington University. And Quilan asked me if I could be here today to help um, lead a Zoom live chat. So, congratulations, you all. Wonderful performance. Q and dancers, could you join us here on the live stream? And so we have an opportunity to hear from you and what this was like for you all. Congratulations. So exciting. We've been building up for this moment for weeks. Yeah, it's such a thrill to get to see this realized. So, first, I would like to just start out with a big thank you for your generosity in opening your homes and performing for us in this way. And a big thank you to Q for offering all that you brought to our community in this really interesting, odd, beautifully strange time that we're living in. So, folks, we're interested in hearing from you, those of you who watched the performance. And if you have any questions for the dancers or Q about the process or the piece, they are ready to answer for you. I notice here there was a question, what did Maddie sign? Yeah, that one didn't make it into the chat. Maddie, I don't remember. Maddie, what did you sign?
I signed Lost.
Lust, haha. Hey, how did you all come up with your words for the last signing? I was wondering about that. Anybody want to offer up? Yeah, Annie?
Yeah, so kind of a framing for this whole piece was we each considered what we wanted to shift in our society. And we took society to mean a lot of different things. Some of us took it as within the society of our body, some of us took it within a small community or within our family or within the greater world. And so we developed words that we felt represented what we wanted to shift in our societies.
And that is part of the beginning of your process working on this piece. So I'm curious if somebody could speak more about the beginnings of this. Maybe actually I'm going to lob this one to Kulan. The beginnings. How did you start? So you show up on Zoom with these strangers from across the world, across the country.
Across the country, yeah, across the country. Sometimes it feels like it's across the world. Um, yeah, it was the beginning of this from the Zoom process was coming in with this idea of being able to translate English phonemes and sounds directly through the body. And why that was important to me came from two different places. One was from just a desire to collaborate with my sister, Kirsten, and she's a screenwriter, also an artist. And I was like, how dope would it be for us to bring our strengths together to tell stories? We're both very passionate about telling Black and brown stories, the stories of our people, and so I was like, how dope would it be if she could write a story, write a screenplay, and me be able to directly translate that screenplay into movement. And then simultaneously, I was also listening deeply to this book, Pedagogy of the Oppressed by Paulo Freire, where he was constantly emphasizing the power of a true word to change society, to destroy oppressive systems, and to create, or through the constant practice of dialogue. And one thing that I was constantly conversing with Freire about as I was listening was like, where's movement? Where's movement in this? And so, like, what does a true movement mean? And so those two things together, I was like, there's something here regarding our value system on the word, for dialogue, and a not so much, at least within our hearing community, not so much an emphasis and valuing of movement in order to have dialogue and to change oppressive systems and et cetera, et cetera. So I ended up coming into the Zoom, our first Zoom, with that kind of mindset, and was like, well, a word comes from letters, so let's start with the alphabet. Got to start from block one, from our ABCs. And initially I was like, yo, let's like, even what Annie was saying, I was like, let's start with a word, let's go to a sentence, right? So I'm like, and then I realized very quickly that like, whoa, 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 like read it all the way back. Just the vowels themselves are very complex to be able to not only have an idea how to move them, but then how do others in the community read them correctly. So that slowed us all the way down, which was beautiful. And so we end up spending a lot of time on just the vowels. And then we had the long vowels versus the short vowels. And then we ended up spreading that out into consonants. And we didn't even get to all of them. And so one of the ways that we ended up getting to those consonants was these words, and what were the consonants and the vowels that existed in each of their words. That was very personal to them. And so that was another aspect that was really on my mind during the creation of, or the beginning of the work, is like, how does this serve for them to get more in touch with who they are in this society, not just becoming a part of the practice because this is what I want to do, but how do they personally invest in this? And I thought the word and how to change society was one way to do that.
Thank you. Thank you. There's a question here that's kind of following up on that. Let's see. What is the most challenging aspect of expressing letters through dance? Is there a dancer who would like to speak to this? The most challenging aspect of expressing letters through dance. Anyone? Bethany? Yeah.
I'd say the hardest part is that because each letter has different ways of pronunciation, especially with vowels, the A versus the A, it's hard to differentiate that kind of, because especially when spelling a word, you kind of just want to go to just the title of the letter, so like A, versus, but if the word is saying A, it's kind of hard to differentiate which one is which, and how to also make them known that they are similar and that they are the same letter, but also make different sounds is really hard. So I think that's one thing, is just differentiating the different sounds with each letter is probably the most difficult part for me. And
Yeah, and so now I'm imagining a word and where I might go to the definition of the word rather than the spelling or the sound of the word. Was that something that you encountered, and how did you address that? Or am I way off base? Yeah, Ellie.
I was thinking about that recently with my word, which was acceptance, and that I feel the way that I would dance for like thinking about the definition of acceptance and like what that meant to me when thinking about like my society and like, you know, my body and like how I think in my mind, that would be so different than like how I was dancing just, you know, a few minutes ago, thinking about the spelling and everything. That was, you know, very much, there was definitely a separation between the definition and then the spelling. And that's difficult, you know, like as someone who dances very emotionally, that's something that I want to tap into all the time. And so having to kind of separate my emotions from that is difficult, and it's very different, but I think it was interesting to explore, and it makes me want to explore it more.
Maddie, yeah.
Kind of to build off of that, what was also difficult is that once we started forming these words, it's, do you want to sound out the letter, or do you want to sound out going through each piece, like l, st, or do you do the s and t separate? And so that was also a difficult thing to kind of maneuver around. And kind of also to build off of your question, Pam, um, for me, I was mostly just thinking about like the task. I was like phonemes, but then after I started thinking about it, I was like, okay, what what I was doing was that like embodiment of the definition. Could it be the embodiment of addition, but just like definition, but just like in a different light? And so I feel like this has just like opened up like an entire new like I feel like it's like I thought I knew the dictionary, but now I have a new one that's new and improved that I can just like look to if I need help with any like choreography or any ideas or just in general, just anything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks for that, Ellie and Maddie. And thanks for that question, Pam. Because for me, I was in this process with them. For me, my word was oppress, and oppression, and so how I was dealing with that was I was so focused on the dynamic movement of each phoneme in O, S, right? That it became something where I had to focus so much and put so much resource into that it was hard to tap into the spiritual emotional side of the thing. So then it was like, okay, I just got to practice. So like I knew what to do, but I had to do it so much that it became secondhand nature for me to hit those dynamics. So then I could fit my emotionality and my spirituality and what it really meant to what oppress really meant for me into that dynamic phrasing. And so it's kind of like, I mean, dancers will definitely know this. Like when you're creating choreography for yourself, but then you got to learn the choreo, right? And then you got to dance the choreo, right? And so like all of these are kind of different steps. And I really feel like we're in that beginning step of like creating the thing and then trying to fit ourselves into that mold.
And as you were just talking, it made me think about taking a ballet class or learning ballet. I bounced into ballet land for a moment there, going through a plie and a tendu. Like you learn the vowel of the plie, right? And then you inform it in a way. That's how that was kind of translating for me as you were talking. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's
That and that's what exactly what we're doing. We're literally developing a new language, right? Ballet is a language, right? And so when you first hit ballet, you don't all of a sudden just like hit it like you're with an intention of you being in the aristocracy, right? You're just trying to figure out how to point your foot. And so eventually from the practice of it, then you start to get into the intentionality and the dancing of it, right? So exactly, you're making the exact connection that we are.
yeah. Wow. What a cool experience. There's a question about choreographing, Quilan, on Zoom. What was the hardest part of choreographing a show via Zoom? And this person wrote, as a former dancer, it seems like it would be difficult to communicate through movement without being in the same space. Can you speak to this?
Yeah. Um it's a challenge for sure. I think it's one of those things for me where I really have to like give credit to like my hip hop and my street and club dance psychology of like we work and we dance wherever, whenever. We're always ready, right? Um And so when we get into this new space of Zoom land, it's just like, okay, like how are we going to do it now? It's a new challenge. And that's exciting. And then on top of that, to shift this thing where or to deepen into a choreographic process, we're really trying to be individuals while choreographing and being in unison in ways at the same time. That's also a big challenge, right? So for me that's really exciting. And two, I think the from the very beginning I was asking the dancers to bring themselves, right? Like don't be passive. when I'm saying something, that's one perspective. I want to hear your perspective too, right? And so I think bringing that just that permission, I think like trying to break down that hierarchy of like choreographer and dancer and like all choreographer and we just sit here and we're utensils to be used, like just breaking all of that down and being like, yo, we're human and we're in a freaking pandemic, and like what better time to realize that we're human than in this time when we're all just like in our home. So it was really inviting them to bring their creativity, to bring their imagination, to bring their thoughts, to challenge each other and to challenge me. And so I think that was what, at least for me, that's what really kept my juices flowing to keep meeting on this Zoom call late at night for each rehearsal and being like, all right, y'all, like, what's up? Like, how's our days going? Like, and then, all right, should we move? Okay, let's get to it. But just really just being humans in it. And so in regards to the specific aspect of choreographing it, I felt like we ended up going through games. Like I'm a really big gamer. So we ended up doing a lot of exercises and games to see how we could play with this concept. So yeah, we got into a lot of the technicalities of what do these things mean, et cetera, but then we would play around with it, which is a lot of what the audience saw today. And so it was really just about, okay, well, let's do exactly what we're doing for an audience, right? And just smoothing out some of the transitions between. So the dancers really held it down in that regard with those transitions. And then they're so used to playing those games. And I actually should, full transparency, they were we ended up putting those games in like a different sequence within like a couple of different rehearsals. And they're just like, yo, I'm ready for whatever. So, okay, we're putting A to over here. Fine. Like we're going to do that. We're going to switch it up. Okay. I need this to happen here. Okay. Bet. They're going to make that happen. So they were just awesome to just like catch it and run with it. But we had a very solid foundation in order to move those pieces around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Annie.
I also want to say, I know I speak for a lot of us when I say that this rehearsal space has been one of the best things. It feels like we're connected. It feels like we're dancing together. And a lot of us, I think, have struggled with getting that through Zoom. So just thank you to everyone for everything that all of us have put in, especially you, Q. It's been an incredible experience.
I've definitely heard that from you all. I have some of you in class right now. Those of you out there watching and listening, I have some of these dancers in class right now, and I've heard about the experience they're having with UQ, and that this time with you in these rehearsal processes, they were telling me they felt like they were in a studio connecting with other dancers in a way they haven't been able to. So that, yeah, I've heard about that all quarter. It's been really great. I'm curious. I'm wondering if people would be willing to share something that surprised you in yourself or in one of your classmates or in Q, like a surprising moment. It could be something you learned or something that frightened you, or who knows, something that was a surprise to you. Surprise in self. Anything come to mind? And this is for you too, Q. Yeah, Bailey.
Something that kind of ties into the like feeling like we were sort of in the studio with one another is a lot of the time, like when you're on Zoom with a bunch of dancers, like it's kind of dead air sometimes. Like everyone's on mute and it's really hard to like kind of unmute yourself and actually say something. But this process, we were all just like spitballing ideas all the time, like bouncing ones off each other. And like, yeah, that's one of the ways that it felt like we were making like really personal connections that we would be having normally in person, but over Zoom land. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, nice. Maddie?
Kind of to bounce off of what Bailey was talking about, I was definitely I was surprised to see, first of all, like so many familiar faces, and some I like share classes with, some I've like just like seen in the past, been in different projects together. And so just like first of all, seeing all these familiar faces was just like, oh, it feels like at home. But um, just I was worried because um, usually I just like there's so much stress to make sure like making every practice and just like putting like all this like stress and tension and like oh you everything needs to be perfect. There's a certain way to do things, boxes that need to be filled, cookies that need to be cut, and all these things. But it was just like not that at all. it was I it was definitely a safe space for me, even though, sometimes we weren't talking about like really deep topics, or we were talking about deeper topics. It was just a safe space for us to just be dancers in this time and to just kind of all work through it together and all grow together. And it was just like surprising, but also just so amazing and an experience that just really changed me so much. So I'm so thankful for all of this.
Great. Karma, did you have your hand up? Oh, sorry, Q.
No, Karma, go ahead.
I feel like I saw you raise your hand, Karma, for that surprising. Uh-oh. I think Karma's frozen.
Such a
Yeah.
beautiful freeze though she has going on.
Yes.
For me, the biggest surprise has been. Oh, is she talking?
No, I'm scared.
We,
All right, it's time to play Guess the Word, guys. What is she displaying?
there we go. Oh, Karma, you're frozen and we hear bits and pieces. Oh, okay. Karma will come back. I bet she'll come back.
I've been waiting for her to come back. The biggest surprise for me has been the magnitude to which I feel called to learn ASL, American Sign Language, and find the people in the deaf community that are just completely not in my worldview. Like that community is not in my worldview, and I want that to switch. I want to make that change there. And the way in which that desire is sparking my soul is surprising to me. I didn't. It's new. It's fresh. And so that that surprise feels really great. And I'm excited to pursue that journey and see where else it takes me. Karma's back.
Yeah. Yeah, Karma. Yay, you're back.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I was going to say one of the things that surprised me, and this ties in a lot just to our working process as well, was how much of each person's personality I felt like I saw in their dance this time around. Like I've worked with a lot of these dancers before and been in class with them or performances with them, and I've never seen so much of themselves in their movement as I have during this process. And I think in part that's just because if we dance based off of like an emotion or like a whole word, like sometimes I feel like that can be too big, too abstract to just dance like, my feeling is, this one's a sad one, this is happy, and I'm going to dance those. But when you break it down to like just a letter, I feel like there's less pressure to perform in a way, because like something I experience is when people are like, okay, improv, I'm like, I don't want people to see my inside brain emotions. I don't like letting that out. That makes me scared. But when it's just a letter, there's not all that pressure. But the letter itself still has a lot of feeling to it, and it's different for each person. So you could still see that person's individuality and their like little inner brain workings and feelings without as much stress and pressure of just like full on improving and like big emotion and stuff like that. So I thought that was really cool.
Mm-hmm. In yesterday's Q&A, Bethany spoke about that Bethany, you just touched on it a little bit, that you have a tool now that you can bring into your improvisation. I think that's what Karma was just addressing. Do others feel the same way? Like if you're in an improvisation moment? Yeah, yeah. Look at all the heads going. Yep. When in doubt, choose a vowel.
And what's dope about that, we've done a couple of exercises with that we didn't show today with our process informing musicality, which ends up being a huge part of what we do as movers. And so it was really interesting for me at going through this process as well, of like hearing instruments and comparing it to the English phonemes and being like, what in our English canon do we not have that's in music? And what do we have? For example, the drum kit of having so many different consonants, the B, the D, the K, the P, and practicing with, okay, what did our community agree on with those consonants? And then like, can I be that clear for every instrument that I hear, every drum that bass that I hear? And so it felt, and when I saw that on them, I was like, oh, this is dope. It just feels like it brings a different confidence to a sense of musicality that I haven't seen within, especially academic settings, as much.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. Wow. That's fantastic. There's so much here. What a treat for us. Well, I'll finish up with another thank you. I know I'm thanking you for all the audience folks who chimed or tuned in yesterday and today as well. This was really a treat for all of us to get to experience. So thank you again to Q for this experience and coming into our community and offering all that you did and sharing all that you did. And dancers, for your generosity and your hard work and commitment in this environment. And we will continue. We will go on, dancers onward. Yes. Thank you. Quilan, is there anything you want to say before we say goodbye?
Yeah, just thank you.
Any
Thank
last?
you. First for me, it's always to God, thanking God for health and the ability to create, to create with people. Thank you, Pam, for the opportunity to invite me. Thank you, dancers, for being on this journey with me. It's definitely more fun when you got people around doing it with you, and you all did it with such joy. I don't take that for granted. And thank you, audience, for coming through and being on the in the snapshot journey today. Again, we don't take that for granted. It elevates us. It helps us to be better. And so we hope you took something away from it as well. Yeah, that's about it for me. Passing it back on to you, Pam.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.